Good evening. I say good evening. Should be good night. It is 11:42 on the evening of the 23rd of the 10th, 2024, or so they tell us. And this broadcast is called It's Simply Not Fair. I've addressed this before, but not being out of sleep, got up out of bed, this, that, and the other, and stood out the back. A memory come to me, a story Bert English told me, which I hope to address further. It's a story of Mrs. Wumble. In a future broadcast, I've put out some feelers to somebody that might have a better memory of that story than me, but it's magic as I remember it. Pure magic. And I've been talking about mediums a lot, and when I tell you the story of Mrs. Wumble, you know, you'll see where the correlation is. But anyway, this is the Self-Preservation Society. It's my channel. I'm Basil, broadcasting Truth and Therapy, BBTT, and here I am using the talking stick. And the title of this upload is It's Simply Not Fair. And what I mean by that is it's simply not fair at all to blame Klaus Schwab. Simply not fair to blame Bill Gates or the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers or whatever. I've told you before on this channel about Richard Peters. Richard Peters, I done ceremony with him back in the 90s, early 90s. He was an elder of the Oglala Lakota tribe. And there's various things I could say about Richard Peters. I remember sitting around a fire one night up at the campsite at Waldershire, and it was around about this time of year because the leaves were falling, and he said something quite profound that's always stuck with me. He said to us all, he said, "See that tree there?" He said, "No two leaves from that tree fall at exactly the same time." Think about that, people. Another thing he said was, in the context of what I'm going to talk about here, when you point a finger at someone, four are pointing back at you. So it's unfair to blame Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, the Council of 300, the 13 families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Payshers. Look up the Payshers, Payseurs. If you've never studied them before, never heard of them before in any way, shape or form, they come from the French royalty that was put to death in the Revolution, the French Revolution. They come from that. Look them up. And for me, they're the missing link. You know, if you've never heard of them, you've heard of the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and everything else. But for me, the Payshers are the elephant in the room, as it were. But anyway, it's unfair to blame them, because our masters controllers, our parents masters and controllers, our grandparents masters and controllers, etc., 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 have dangled carrots in front of us, you know, in various ways, shapes or form. Look what happened after the Second World War in Britain and in America. Suddenly there was lots of money being spent. Houses were being built, council houses, this, that and the other. And frozen food and stuff like that. You know, the supermarkets were really starting to gain a foothold, and we fell for it all. These carrots that our masters dangle at us, we fall for it, and we're looking at that and we're not looking over there. We're to blame. Our obedience is to blame. Tyrants don't create the tyranny. Our obedience does. Your obedience. As long as you've got the bread and circuses, whether it be your mobile phones, your sports, anything else like that, then we're not focused on the self. Anything to get you not focusing on the self. And in my last upload, I was quite bullshit because, you know, my background comes from the spiritualist movement. And 40 years ago, when I first started this path on the spiritualist movement, there was people and there was that stood on the platform, and when they addressed the audience, give an address, you know, that so much, I'm not looking back through rose-coloured spectacles, so much was empowering, enlightening and enabling. They were giving people then who sat and developed and whatever, a link with spirit. I've just seen a quote from Albert Best, and look him up yourself. Albert Best spoke about this back in 1993 when he sat for development 7 years before he took the platform. And as he said, nowadays 3 or 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, they're on the platform. Do you know what, people? It's the easiest thing in the world to link with spirit. And still so few do it. And those that do, in the majority of cases, that's all they do, link with the lower astrals, because that's what spirit is, the lower astral planes. When you leave here, deceased, as they tell you, you suddenly realise you're awake or alive in those lower astral planes of spirit, which are not too far away from this third dimensional reality. And in those lower astral planes, what you were here continues. You have exactly the same opportunity there as you do here. The only thing different between there and here is this physical avatar, body, form. Is anything different? All knowledge and awareness is available to you there, the other side of life, as it is here. The halls of learning, the Akashic records, this, that, and the other. And this is why in my last upload I was so frustrated, because I see many people giving themselves the title of spiritual mediums, psychic medium, have no fucking understanding of what mediumship is in the way that I do. I don't give myself a title. I just am. I am. That's it. But in the context of trying to empower, enlighten and enable you in this, I am probably one of the best mediums out there, certainly in the Kent area. And as I said, in my last upload, if I'm wrong, if there's others like that out there, then I'd like to connect with them. If there's truthers out there that are doing what they're doing because it's the right thing to do and they're doing it for the right reasons, they're not after your money in the same way I'm not after your money in any way, shape or form. Like so many mediums are, and so many truthers are. They entice you in and make you feel good, make you feel wanted and understood, this, that and the other. And then all they do, because they're under spiritual possession, is possess you. And then you're sucked in. You're sucked in. And that's what your masters do. That's what your masters do. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, the Pashas, the Gates, the Swabs of this world. And your governments, all your governments, they give you a little bit of what you want. They very rarely give you what you need. They give you what you want. And they make you need it. All these foods that, well, they're not foods, are they? If it doesn't grow from the earth and we eat it like that with a little bit of preparation, like peeling a potato or skinning an animal, and this, that and the other, if it doesn't come from the earth and we don't eat it like that, then that food, like us, has been bastardized and corrupted. Everything has. What is natural? We're not natural. In no way, shape or form can I see human beings as being natural. Mankind is. Human beings are not. They've been developed to serve an agenda, to be slaves. And now we're coming into a time where human beings, in the numbers that they've been used and utilised, are no longer needed anymore. Because we've got AI and we've got robots and we can clone and this, that and that. We can't, they can. And so, you're going to be wiped out. And to me, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Because if you're going to let your masters, not just today, but throughout history, trample all over you, control you, manipulate you, then you reap what you fucking sow. Own that shit. Doesn't belong to them. It belongs to you, us, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, etc., etc. You go back 10 generations, 4,000 people are responsible for you being here today. You, the person, the man, the woman, the human, the man or woman listening to this. For you to be here today, it took 10 generations of 4,000 people. Your parents, their parents, etc., etc., etc. Think about that. Think about things. Don't have a thought until you think. Because otherwise that thought is not yours. It is what the Matrix indoctrinates you and programs you with. No thought is yours until you first think. Otherwise, you're just working under the control of your corporate masters, your physical masters, and your spiritual masters, those dark, demonic, satanic beings. They're not to blame. None of them are to blame. In the seen and the unseen, the heard and the unheard, none of them are to blame. They, when you study these things, they have acted within all of universal and natural law. Everything that it represents, they've acted within it. And common law. They've told us, always told us beforehand what's going to happen. And we, because of the television, pay no heed to it because we think we're just being entertained. And that's why it happens the way it does. You look at what the Simpsons have predicted. You don't need to go any further than that. Or, well, you do, but start there. What the Simpsons have predicted, what of it. And that's what the television is for. I've told you before, John Logie Baird didn't invent jack shit. Nobody in the history of the earth has ever invented anything. Ever. Period. All that we can ever do is discover what's already there. And if our corporate masters discover it before us, you can bet your life they use it to control and manipulate us. But they have to tell you that first. And so they put it in their books, in their papers, in their films, and in their TV programs, and whatever. They tell you. If we're too blind to see it, or too ignorant to see it, or too fearful to face it, that's our fault. It's not theirs. It's not theirs. I don't blame spirit for what they do. I don't blame humans for what they do. I blame them for what they don't do. What we don't do. Incarnation after incarnation. We don't do it. And so it's done to us. Because we like the coin. We love this thing called money, which is completely unnatural within the construct of the universe. It has been created as a form of control. And we chase it. And we chase it, incarnation after incarnation. We leave here with love that we've shared with others. We leave here with memories and experiences of that incarnation. The pockets on a shroud are empty. What we take with us is what's in our heart and what's our awarenesses. And that's generally in the mind. and the mind ain't yours, just the same as the body and the spirit is not yours. It's all corrupted from the true self, the soul, to enslave you, manipulate you. You're blinded by your own light. You're in fear of that which you truly are, the light and the way, Lucifer, because they've told you Lucifer and Satan are the same. They're not. They're not. The soul and the spirit are not the same. And anybody that tells you they are hasn't got a fucking clue what they're on about. That picture there really does sum up how the soul has been bastardized, because the spirit there, as you see it, is dark. Take away, the rest of it, how it looks, but it is dark. That's not light. That's not the soul, the source, consciousness, the light and the way that you are. It's a brilliant system. It's a brilliant system. And most of the souls that incarnate into this third dimensional reality are ignorant of it, in fear of it, or comply with it because of this unnatural thing called money. And we use all means available to us to get more of this unnatural thing called money at the expense of becoming aware. It's a brilliant system, and it serves those that control us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It serves them very well, because we will defend their system. That's what the bulk of humanity does. Defends their system. Mankind don't. Mankind is consciousness personified and lives in balance with the natural cycles of the earth, as you see with those lost tribes. While the earth has gone through in the last 100 years this industrial revolution and everything that's come from it, those lost tribes in Borneo and deep in the Amazonian rainforest, they have continued to procreate and live in balance with nature. And we think we're civilized because our masters told us. That quote on that interview, that reporter said to Gandhi, "What do you think of Western civilization?" Gandhi said, I think it's a good idea." Brilliant. Brilliant. And in the context of what I talk about with regard to spiritualism and mediumship, I'll give you a quote if you haven't heard this before. I've often said to go and look this up. Sir William Crookes and Katie King. And what happened there. Arthur Conan Doyle was there when, through the mediumship of Florrie Cook, Katie King fully materialised, and a doctor there took her pulse as a spirit. As a spirit. And Sir William Crookes, look him up, find out all his credentials, this, that, and the other. would share with his peers what had happened there. And he come out with one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard. When he was doing this to his peers at one of those big halls in London, somewhere around the turn of the last century, somebody stood up. It's in the Edwardian era, I believe. After Sir William Crookes had explained everything that had happened at this seance, and Katie King materialising and whatever, Doctor taking her pulse, and Conan Doyle was there, and this, that, this bloke stood up and he said, "Sir, are you saying this is possible?" And Sir William Crookes come back with one of the greatest one-liners I've ever heard, and retorts. He said, "Sir, I never said it was possible. I said it happened." And that, my friends, speaks about what happens here to us. I think it's impossible. It seems impossible that these Palestinian people are being genocided. But they are. It seems impossible to me that the people of North Carolina and Tennessee should be subject to what they're being subject to in order that their own government, who work for their corporate masters, would get them off the land so they can rape the earth again for the lithium deposits. But it's happening. And next it'll be you. And that, my friends, is the fucking truth. And that's all I tell you here. All you people out there that have got something to offer, offer it. Because it's the right thing to do and you do it for the right reasons. Not because you want to profit off somebody's hard-earned income. Don't allow money to use you. Use money so it serves you, not so you serve it. And that will bring the system down. Save your money. Get as much of it as you can out your bank. Put it under your bed, under your mattress, this, that, and the other. Because as I said a couple of years ago, it'll come in handy for bartering when we go over to this digital system, which is happening and going to happen. All the infrastructure is being put in place. The towers and the cameras and everything else. The 5G. Most of you have no real comprehension that 5G is military weapon grade technology. You will, once they start turning it on to get used that have had the jab, and then you just start dropping dead. But you can't die for the life of you. All you can do is learn what it is to live. And that's how I spend my days. And when I come to the awarenesses that I do, I share that knowledge here on my channel to empower, enlighten and enable you to not be blinded by your own light. To stand in your own light and cast out the shadows and the demons that you carry within you. Conquer them, cast them out, and then and only then will you truly see the demons and the shadows outside of you. And then, and only then, you might stand up with your fellow man to fight against that which enslaves all humanity. Black, white, yellow, red. If this message resonates, share the message. Don't share me. I don't want to become famous. I don't want to become known. I want the truth to be famous. I want the truth to be known. I want the truth to be lived. And the only way that can happen is if we stop living the lie. Palamia, thank you. In Lakesh, in you I see another me. Mitakue oyasin, we are all related. We are all relatives. And I tell you, we are all connected. Look underneath in the description box. See if anything there appeals to you. All my contact details are there. And share the message if it resonates with you. Share the message, don't share me.